Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to our 10th episode of UNscripted. For this captivating episode, we have a very special guest with us today to share valuable insight on resilience to change and requirement of foreign collaboration, South Asian perspective, which is associated with our upcoming event, CUMUN 2025. Before moving into our discussion, this is Sumaiya Tasneen Sheemu, Executive Member of Chittagong University Model United Nation Association, will be your host for today's episode. Now, let me introduce our esteemed guest, Mr. Hadza Min Fadhli Robby, Assistant Professor of the Department of International Relations in University Islam Indonesia. His expertise encompasses Turkish domestic and foreign policies, the foreign policies of Muslim countries, and their role in international politics. He brings valuable insights to the discussion of foreign policy analysis, particularly concerning Muslim countries' foreign policies and their global influence. Selamat malam, sir. Welcome to our 10th episode of UNscripted. We're truly honored to have you with us to have a discussion on this contemporary topic. So, without any further delay, I would like to give you the floor to start the discussion. The floor is yours now.
Movement and all of the marches of the Bangladeshi Liberation War. So I'm also paying homage and also honor to those who have fallen during the language movement in Bangladesh, and also the revolution, the liberation war that happened in 1970 to 1973. And I really hope that all of us in Indonesia could learn so much from all of you, and we could be progressing together as Muslim democracies. That is the most important thing that we need to know. We are both emerging Muslim democracies that is going to be both two largest economies of Asia. I mean, Bangladesh and Indonesia are connected by Indian Ocean and also by Bay of Bengal. And this is a huge potential that both of our nations should always try to to manage together and to collaborate together on how we can make a lot of potentials of cooperation in a lot of sectors. And I hope that this kind of discussion would spark inspiration and also further collaboration between youth organizations in both countries. So let me just start to share my slide. I don't want to talk too much. I just have brief points in my PowerPoint. I've shared this with your friend Ishfaqul Asif. And today my presentation will be focusing on the youth and democracy in contemporary context. So 2024 was an amazing year for democracy. It's amazing in one aspect, but it's terrible in another aspect. In countries such as in Bangladesh and South Korea, we have been witnessing the power of youth. And their captivating political influence that would able to safeguard democracy. If it were not without the role of the youth, for example, in South Korea, without the power of these fandoms that consisted coming from different girl bands and boy bands in Korea, those fans, if they are not going to the streets to defend democracy against the autocratic rulings of Yoon Suk-yeol, the currently ousted president of South Korea, then Korea would be different now. But thanks to the power of youth, South Korea's democracy are safe from this threat of autocratization and further authoritarianism. And also the same thing we have witnessed in Bangladesh. And that is why actually it is us who need to learn a lot from Bangladesh rather than Indonesia trying to emulate a model in Bangladesh. No, we should be learning together, progressing together as emerging Muslim democracies. Yeah, emerging Muslim democracies, and therefore, this kind of exchanges, frank, honest interaction done in academic forum would be needed to between students coming from both countries. And what is really peculiar about the July Revolution of 2024 is that a lot of media has been mentioning the example of Bangladesh as a revolution, a political change that is entirely driven by Gen Z. That is all of you. all of you who are now sitting as executive members in your respective organizations are the ones who is making history. And this is something also happening in South Korea as well. A lot of them are still sitting in undergraduate years, first year, second year, third year. No, there's no difference. But they are the ones who are having the realization that if they are not going to do something about their country, then their future would be also threatened. Because if youth are living under an authoritarian country, if youth people are chances are limited by authoritarian system, that it would be uh, a bad news for the future of the country as well, because you cannot progress as an emerging economy if you have an authoritarian country. Well, we have what is it, exception like China, or exception countries like Russia, which is basically authoritarian in nature, but their economy is basically controlled by either state or by oligarchs, and this is something that will allow further inequality, further injustice to happen in emerging economies like Indonesia and Bangladesh. And this is something that we need to tackle together as emerging Muslim democracies. So in Indonesia, we are currently facing a darkening mood of democratization, because the current president was a former general who is responsible for the kidnapping of many activists. And sadly, many of those activists are now co-opted by the current government to work together with the former general. And now what we're seeing is the backsliding of our process of democratization. But luckily, amongst our students here attending in this Zoom, some of them have uh, actively protesting against the government, just like you do in your own country, for the betterment of their future, for the development of this country. One of my teaching assistants here, Raihan, is Muhammad Raihan. I will honorably mention him here because he's the one who is becoming the field coordinator for all of the protests happening in this exact city of Yogyakarta. So he is the one who is responsible to mobilize all of the masses, just like you did in July. So we also conduct similar demonstration around May and April, May, June. But to no avail, I mean, like the government just dismissed all of the what is it, demands from the students and from the movements. There's a lot of reason why student movement is not working here. And I think that we can do another discussion. I mean, it's better to have discussion between students on this issue. But the thing is, just today I read a survey conducted by Friedrich Naumann Foundation, one of the largest Stiftungs or largest think tank group in Germany. So they have released this survey on the political attitudes of the Gen Z students. And what they found is that Gen Z are very much concerned about the right-based value, how their political future should be based on right-based value. So you need to recognize that someone's identity is very crucial to their own existence, and you cannot intervene that personal choices. So if you are a Muslim in a Western country, then you shall be a Muslim. If you are a Christian in a Muslim country, then you have the right to be Christian in a Muslim country, and you can exercise your political right. You can exercise everything that you want to do, as long as it is under the constitutional mechanism. So, and there's something about Gen Z that is very particular about this generation, is that a lot of Gen Z students are very much wanting the government to be appreciative of their individual agencies and also their role in consolidating social movements. So those are key elements in the minds of Gen Z when they are trying to consider their role in social and political arena. Yeah. So the state of our democracy. So I've been actually in different panel. I've tried to explain this as well. So my student might realize that I was also explaining this in a different panel, but let me take this in a different context. So in the context of South Asia and Southeast Asia, I'm comparing two different kind of region here. So we are looking into South Asia, and most of the countries in South Asia are having the status of electoral autocracy in Pakistan, in India, and now the situation is changing in Bangladesh, and also in but well, it's not happening in Nepal, in Bhutan, and in Maldives, and in Sri Lanka, but in uh well, the largest countries of South Asia, we are experiencing serious issue with autocratization. The same thing is also happening in Southeast Asia, where we have a higher degree of regional cooperation, but still, because we have issues with autocratization, also dangers of authoritarianism in different countries, such as in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Philippines. In Philippines, they have the son of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos as president. Yeah. And still in many part of Southeast Asia, such as Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, especially in Myanmar, which is also a neighbor of Bangladesh. That is why I can understand the reason why Bangladesh wanted a membership in ASEAN, because a lot of problem in ASEAN might be having close linkages to what is happening in Bangladesh, particularly the problem of Rohingya people. Yeah, as long as Bangladesh is not included actively in the talks that is conducted within the Asian mechanism, then Bangladesh will be left out, and therefore there could be no comprehensive solution to what all of the problem that is happening in Myanmar, especially in the problem of Bangladesh, the problem of Rohingya. That is why I can understand the reason why Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus is always asking all of the ASEAN member countries to actually consider Bangladesh as a member of ASEAN. Yeah, perhaps this is still a vision that is far from reach, but I think that if Bangladesh could really signify their relevance to ASEAN, I think uh, slowly but surely ASEAN countries would seriously consider Bangladesh to be one of the most important part of Southeast Asia. Uh, if not in near future, but perhaps in next 10 or 20 years to come. Because what happened is that when there is no regional mechanism to solve the issue, then this will also endanger the future trajectories of democratization in Bangladesh. Yeah. So why talking about democracy is important in the context of South Asia and Southeast Asia? Because we know that Indonesia and Bangladesh is still facing a lot of problems with regards to human development, about how we can achieve equality in many sectors, especially in health, in education, in gender gap, in issues such as justice, and also how we can tackle issues like corruption. Those issues could not be solved. This issue about human development and also things that are related to them could not be solved if we are not committed to democratization. Why? Because democratization here, as shown in this graph, corresponds positively to the higher level of HDI. Well, it's not always the case, but in most cases, especially if we are looking into cases of Western European countries and also cases of Northern American countries, we can see that high human development index is a result of a serious commitment of these countries to be politically accountable within a democratic system. So that's the thing that we should understand in this aspect. And also, it is very important for us to understand that um, the citizens who are living in those countries would feel secure in utmost level, in the most perfect level, if their human development is guaranteed. in every aspect. Yeah, if we still have problems with establishing good schools, providing basic needs to the citizens, ensuring that all of the citizens have equal access to health care. If we are still having difficulties in ensuring those basic infrastructure, while we cannot have an accountable government to work with, it is harder for the government of Bangladesh in Indonesia to ensure that their citizens could live in the safest way possible. One of the examples that I would like to mention to Bangladeshi students is that the government of Indonesia this year, just this week, recently launched a free lunch scheme, similar to that has been conducted during the premiership of Manmohan Singh. Sorry, I get mixed up between Narendra Modi and Manmohan Singh. So the late Manmohan Singh was the one who is establishing the free lunch scheme in India, and that is why this year we wanted to emulate the same system, and we wish that all of the students, well, the elementary up to the middle school level, could have access to adequate nutritious meal. But quickly, I need to say that since day one, this program, this free lunch scheme program has been met with a lot of criticism, especially about the lack of accountability of the sources of funding, and also how the government would be responsible to provide adequate healthy meal to all of the students in an exact similar standard. It will be very difficult, and a lot of complaint has been coming from the students. And as with any other mega project that is happening in Indonesia previously, this project is prone to mega corruption. So that is why it's very important to have an accountable government at the first place before we can ensure that the government would safeguard better human development, and also to ensure that all of the citizens could live safely and securely in their own country. That is why I'm saying here, accountable and democratic government guarantees the livelihood and the security of their citizens. Yeah. So there's a very uh, telltale signs of the erosion of democracy. We have been looking this everywhere, including in developed countries such as in Hungary, in Israel, and also in the United States. Those erosion of democracies are happening because of mainly four reasons. And this is something that we are here in Indonesia and Bangladesh should learn together on how we can ensure that the path of democratization that we are currently taking in would not be intervened by these four factors. The first one is the lack of accountability mechanism in democracies. This happened in Indonesia in last election in 2024. In Bangladesh, I knew that all of you have conducted an election which was boycotted by the opposition party during that time, because the lack of accountability and the lack of the check and balances mechanism between the governmental agencies, between the judicative, the legislative, and also the executive branches. It seems that all of them are working in a collective manner, and the same thing is also happening in Indonesia, where we can see that former president's son could actually run for presidency because the Constitutional Court decided to lower the age limit for the vice presidential candidate to be lower than before. And this was done because of the political intervention conducted by both the executive and also parliamentary branches of the government of Indonesia. So if these branches of the government under the system of the trias politica is not trying to be accountable, then it will be the cause of the erosion of democracy. And also the eroding agent utilizing opportunities to start the sequence of democratic backsliding. This happened in United States. You can see that the composition of the Supreme Court is now leaning toward Republican. because the Republican wanted to make sure that all of the regulations, all of the judicial complaints that is coming to this Supreme Court are serving the interests of only Republicans and not the Democrats. And this is something that would endanger the future of democracy in the United States. Yeah. Incumbent abuse is something that all of us have been witnessing in both Indonesia and Bangladesh. You know how the previous dictator, he's always trying to manipulate the situation uh, for her own good. Same thing happens with Indonesia when the president was trying to nominate his own son as a vice president, and he is trying to work every single mechanism available in this country to enable that to happen. So incumbent abuse is the most dangerous thing that could ever happen in Indonesia. And this almost risks the future of democracy in South Korea, because this is the exact reason why President Yoon Suk-yeol was declaring state of emergency immediately at night during winter days. Yeah, so he's trying to say that he's trying to safeguard the democratic status of the country, but through an authoritarian means. Yeah, and now South Korean youth are still struggling to actually topple down and to indict the president of what is it of trying to undermine the democracy and also the constitution of South Korea. And there is also issue of political polarization enabled by governmental intimidation. This also happened in both Bangladesh and Indonesia. That is why we have a lot in common and we have to learn a lot from each other. Yeah. Why it is very important for us to connect the issue of democracy and human security. So human security is a way for us to safeguard our human rights, but the way we can safeguard our rights to live, our rights to work, our rights to perform our religious duty based on our faith, the right for us to protest, the right for us to complain to the government, the right for us to ask the accountability from the government. Yeah. Why human security has close relation to democracy? Firstly, it's because human agency, especially those who are having power, are bound to serve their own self-interest. As I've explained to you about how the Indonesia's president is trying to misuse his power to allow his son to nominate for the vice presidency. And this is also happening in Bangladesh in certain extent before this democratization happened. Yeah, a lot of cliques of the former dictators are working everywhere in every single governmental agencies. I mean, you can witness it from one of the most famous Al Jazeera documentary that you all know. I mean, my Indonesian students will also watch that scandal about how several generals are implicated in this kind of process. I don't want to delve further into detail. You can watch that. That is why democratic commitment and institutional accountability are necessary to keep human agency, especially those who are power in check, and also to ensure that our human security could be protected. Yeah, and it is why building democratic resilience, building democratic consciousness, especially within the youth generation, is very important to ensure and enable the culture of human security, respecting human rights and building the culture from within, not without. When we are discussing about democratization, some we think that democratization only happened through the influence of external forces. And I think that a lot of my Bangladeshi friend know exactly how this kind of accusation works. A lot of people are saying that the democratization of Bangladesh is a work of intelligence of some countries. Yeah, but this is not true. I mean, you can see the genuine messages that a lot of Bangladeshi students are bringing to the street. The same thing goes with Syrian people. Syrian people are accused of what is it, bringing democracy to their country as part of the Israeli or American agenda. Well, it's not true, because it's actually part of their aspiration since 2011. And I've been witnessing that since day one, when they've been protesting the Assad's regime. It's not actually something that is coming out from the spokesperson of White House. It's not something that is coming from the speakers of Israeli Knesset. No, it is an actual people voice that we have to understand. And it is something that we call as a process to build democracy. So we are not exporting democracy, but we are constructing democracy from our local sources. So what we need to understand, I would like to compare two cases here, the case of Indonesia. I would give you a lot of explanation, but let me go simply here that democratization process and also political transformation is always enabled by student movement. From 1965 up to 1998, organic networks of intellectuals, lecturers, professors, and also human rights activists has always made democratization process possible by enabling student movement to work together with these organic networks of intellectuals. And that is why democratization that is happening in Indonesia was actually one of the most vibrant process of political transformation in Southeast Asia, because you have Muslims, leftists, right wing are working together to consolidate democracies in Indonesia against the ruling of Suharto back then. Yeah, but now the current problem is the lack of conciliation between student movement and also the existence of elite patronage, which is always trying to sabotage students' movement. Yeah. And also there's also concerns of how student movement could be regionalized. I mean, Thailand has been successful in in fulfilling some of their demand to the government, but still it is not totally successful. But if students across the countries in Southeast Asia could work together and could make student movement as a regionalized attempt, then this would bring democratization at the regional level. And this is something that I'm always talking together with human rights activists. I used to have a conversation with one of my friend in Cambodia, and he said that we should work together as people, not to work together with the elite, because the elite has their own interest. Yeah. And also in Bangladesh, I don't want to expand too much about Bangladesh because it's something that all of you have experienced. Yeah. And I think that what you guys have done in Bangladesh is an exemplary case of effective organic consolidation of movements that would safeguard democracy and also to enable the culture of constructing human security and human rights from within. So you are trying to construct the notion of human security and human rights. That is something that is coming out of your own understanding, not coming from the external forces, not influenced by foreign parties. It is something that you are truly understanding because you are suffering under an authoritarian regime. You were suffering. You were suffering from that, and this is why such lessons of July Revolution would be important for every country who are still struggling from autocratization, such as Indonesia. Yeah. And that is why I am asking you to further this collaboration by intensifying discussions between student activists and pro-democracy activists in Bangladesh and Indonesia. And we have to start this from educational institutions, particularly in university and higher education level, and religious educational institutions. I'm very much concerned about the democratization of madrasah. Here in Indonesia, we are also having a lot of madrasah, and the secret behind Indonesia's democracy lies within the democratization of madrasah and how madrasah students would be understanding the value and the importance of democratization. If they are the ones who will be, teaching religion to the public masses, and religion is becoming one of the major forces driving Bangladesh society, then religious leaders should be the one who is trying to understand the importance and the urgency of democracy in order for democracy to truly work in emerging Muslim democracies of Indonesia and Bangladesh. And it is why we also need to have to enhance regional cooperation, be it from the institutional level or people to people connections like this. Yeah. And therefore I'm actually trying to evaluate the possibilities of allowing of us trying to think how Bangladesh could be members of ASEAN, because a lot of issues in ASEAN could not be solved without the involvement of Bangladesh, even though there might be differences in opinion on that. Okay, thank you so much for your attention. I think that's all from me. So thank you, and back to you, Sumaya.
Yes, sir. The discussion so far have been very fruitful and it was well explained actually. You have mentioned about the July Revolution and the students' role in the July protest. It was a revolutionary experience and journey for us, for the students of Bangladesh to protect our democratic rights. We are hopeful that we will overcome those hurdles and we will ensure democratic rights in future. But as you have mentioned a lot of things, so uh, can we go for some questions? Like,
Yes, please do.
okay, so as you have mentioned, the role of youth, the youth is very important, and a significant portion of South Asian region is basically pop youth and young people. So they often face many hurdles like institutional hurdles, socio-cultural norms, and legal constraints also. So how they can overcome and collaborate and and on a bigger prospect, they can participate in political arena.
Well, as we have witnessed in the course of the 2024 presidential election in Indonesia, some presidential candidate has tried to involve with youth networks and youth communities in designing their political program, and this is something that I would like to appreciate. I mean, I'm not trying to publicly endorse certain candidates, but some of my Indonesian students might know from presidential candidate like Anies Baswedan. So he's one of the promising presidential candidate in 2024 Indonesian president election, and he actually involved a lot of organic youth networks in his political campaigns. They are coming from different kind of backgrounds. Some of them might be coming from what is it? From madrasa graduate. Some of them might be coming from K-pop fans. I mean, like they are what is it? Trying to build collaborators to actually design a program. And when the presidential candidate, he actually invited the youth to talk together and to create a public forum, a public debate. And I wish to see this on Bangladesh. I really hope to see that Bangladesh democracy could be this vibrant. I mean, you have a lot of parties there. I mean, there are Jamaat Islam, there are BNP, there are AL, a lot of parties. And I really hope that since it is you who are what is it, who are in control, I mean, like you are the ones who is having the power to change, you should be able to always try to mobilize your organization for all of the political processes that is happening. But sadly, because of this what is it, unhealthy political condition here in Indonesia, we are unable uh, to help good candidates. I mean, like those who are trying to listen to the youth voices as the one who could be the president of Indonesia. And one thing that all of the youth organizations should be really care about is about the existence of elite patronage. Elite patronage really disturb the independence of youth organization. And I think that one of my students here, Raihan, have a lot of to explain about that, because he's the one who is coordinating all of the protests here in Indonesia. And what happened when he tried to contact several of his friends? Several of his friends were getting intimidated by police. Some of them were getting bribed by the elites. So that he or she could not attend the protest because they were bribed before they attend the protest. So this is something that is the huge challenge when we are talking about how youth could be participating actively in the process of democratization. Yeah. So that's my take, Sumaya.
It was well explained, sir. So, uh, You have mentioned some terms repeatedly, again and again, about the political misuse, accountability, transparency, and about the elite people that are holding the power and they are misusing it, even in Indonesia and Bangladesh. So, how these South Asian countries navigate these complexities, and they can foster collaboration to enhance these, ensuring these foreign collaboration, and they can ensure democracy in their own country.
Yeah, so here's the thing. What I would like you to know is that, especially in the context of Indonesia and Bangladesh bilateral relation, we didn't have much people-to-people connection like this. I mean, this is one of the very few channels where Indonesia and Bangladeshi students could interact together, right? There was never a forum like this, I think, in many years. It was very impossible for me to imagine until you guys invited me, and I'm also inviting my students. And I'm looking into the chat box now, and some of my students actually wanted to ask Bangladeshi students here about how you all of you are managing to was it to take power and to take charge of your democratization process. And I think it will be very nice if you can answer some of the questions from Indonesian students. And this is exactly why this forum is conducted. That is to allow discussions, and something that I'm imagining in the future is that we have what is it, better connection between Indonesian and Bangladeshi students, because we are actually having same uh, political climate, although we have differences in political systems. Of course, Bangladesh is a parliamentary system, we have presidential system, but uh, politically and socially speaking, we are Muslim democracies, and this is why whenever we are talking about democracy, is just the same things that we are experiencing, uh, problems that we are currently trying to tackle. It's just the same. Yeah, that is why I'm. If there is any questions from Indonesian students and Bangladeshi students, other than Sumaya's question, I'd love to hear from all of you.
Okay, so we can take some questions from our audiences.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there are questions from Aris. Yeah, Aris is one of my students from the practice of diplomacy. Aris, would you like to read your questions?
Due to my current circumstances and the untactical positioning, I am not able to read it aloud, sir. I am so sorry.
Okay, no problem, Aris. Thank you for asking. So Aris is asking about the historical and social political factors shape the resilience of South Asian and Southeast Asian countries. The thing is that our societies are very much used to a lot of changes. Well, Bangladesh is a country prone to climate change. I mean, you guys experience monsoon for 6 months, and that is why a lot of talks are happening on how to create Bangladesh to be climate resilience. And climate resiliency to me is could only be happening if Bangladesh could have a democratic, accountable government. If not, a lot of infrastructure that should be spent to build that climate resiliency would be spent in their pockets, not in the hands of the people that is needing that the most. I mean, issues like climate migrants. Many of my students actually writing about Bangladesh. They're writing about migrant workers. They're writing about climate migrants. A lot of the issues that you are experiencing is something that we are closely following. So you can ask my students. Some of them are writing about Bangladesh politics without you knowing them, knowing their name, knowing their identities. But if you are searching UII Bangladesh, was it thesis, you will find a lot of thesis on that. And the reason on what I'm talking this is that we actually have same way of facing difficulties. That is to believe in the power of the people, to believe in the power of the community, because Bangladesh and Indonesia are both family-oriented countries. We are believing in the power of the communal good. Common good is something that is we truly was it we truly hold dear in both Indonesia and Bangladesh. And also we are having Muslim Islamic values as well. But this Islamic value is not something that you are not finding in any other country. Yeah, for example, in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, I visited the dargah Maulana Chishti nearby the Dhaka High Court, and everybody is just smiling. I mean, like the culture of Islam in Bangladesh is just similar to what we have used to in Indonesia. A lot of what is it? People are kindly exchanging things, and what is it? The spirit of Islam in Bangladesh and Indonesia is not the one that resembles extremism and terrorism as what United States and their allies are saying. So this image of Islam that we are sharing is actually a potential power that would enable the rise of these two countries as emerging Muslim democracies. And this is something that I would like to encourage you to always try to explore together. And we need to have this forum as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if there is any Indonesia Bangladeshi Friendship Association, Youth Friendship Association, and that will be very good to create. I mean, to enable conversation between both of you. And moving on to the next question, if so, what are the roles of traditional government? I'm saying that the religious institution is playing a huge role in this. That is why if the Sufi, if people who are the ulamas, those mullah in the dargah, if they are advocating for the cause of democracy, then it is something that would safeguard the future of the country. This is the same thing also happened in Indonesia in 1998. A lot of mullah, a lot of kiai, a lot of religious scholar in Indonesia coming from different faiths, from Hindu, from Catholics, from Christian, from Muslim. They are committed to the idea of democracy. Then it is the way that will open all of the possibilities for every citizens. Yeah. I think that Raihan is directing this question to the friends in Bangladesh. Yeah. I don't know how should I answer this because um, probably someone in Bangladesh would like to answer this question because I don't think that I don't have the capacity to answer this one. I might give an answer, but but would be very generic. The thing is that the critical awareness stems from the similar understanding of how bad is the status of democracy. That is why students from private universities, from the University of Liberal Arts in Dhaka, North West University, a lot of private universities, students actually coming to the ground because they are looking into the cause of injustice, and it's enough to mobilize people. I think that someday later, all of you should organize something that is student-led discussion, not me leading the discussion, but it should be a student-led one. Just a suggestion. Perhaps some of you might be thinking of this forum in the future after you've conducted your MUN session, of course.
Sure, sir. We believe that it is important for us to collaborate more and engage in more dialogues so that we can have and we can generate actually more solutions and we can ensure our democratic rights in further future. So if there is any more question from the audiences, from Bangladeshi students or Indonesian. Okay, there's a question from Imon Ahmed.
Imon, okay, thank you, Imon. Thank you for asking the question. USA has common Korea about Islamic. No, they will never change that. Because why? Because they have their own conception of what is Islam, how Muslim should be. You should read one of the best articles written by one of the professors in the United States. This one is a Muslim professor. He was originally from Kenya. So him was Mahmoud Mamdani. All of you who is learning about United States treating Muslim countries should learn this name, Mahmoud Mamdani. So Mahmoud Mamdani was writing something about good or bad good Muslims, bad Muslims. So he was trying to say that whenever United States is interacting with Muslim countries, they would immediately categorize Muslim country into two categories. There are good Muslim countries and there are bad Muslim countries. So who are good Muslim countries? Those countries who are following everything that American politicians are saying. If America wants this Muslim country to support Israel, then they should support Israel. Then will be considered as good Muslim countries. If countries have what is it? Have very harsh criticism of Israel. I mean, they are not trying to go with the idea of moderate Islam as defined in the United States, then this country would be considered as bad Muslim. And something that you should realize is that United States uh, would never any Muslim country to actually have good democracy, because uh, if a Muslim country have a good democratic system, then it will be a threat to American interests. Why? Because a working democracy in a Muslim country, meaning that a lot of Muslim value will be integrated to the constitutional system. I mean, well, it is something that might be derived from Islamic law, Sharia. Well, it doesn't really mean that it should be always the formalization of Islamic law per se, but we are talking about how certain Muslim values could be entering the political system. And this is something that United States is worried the most, yeah, because they have a lot of agenda about this gender ideology and something related to, well, to simply say about the woke ideology, something that they want Muslim country to also follow, but it is something that would not be accepted in most of the Muslim countries like Bangladesh and Indonesia, because we have different moral standards to follow. Yeah, so Emon and my students in Indonesia and Bangladesh, uh, I recommend you to read Good Muslim, Bad Muslim, a work by Mahmoud Mamdani. He's an Indian-born Ugandan academic. So he's not Kenyan, he's Ugandan academic. So you should read a lot from him to understand this issue.
Okay, sir, there's another question from Tahasin B. Chaudhary. What initiatives at this moment could be taken to improve relationship between Dhaka and Jakarta? A couple of possible pros.
Okay, Tahasin, thank you for this. How to improve relationship between Dhaka and Jakarta? Well, we have a lot of negotiations going on. Lastly, Indonesia has a lot of investment in the sectors of railroad, because Bangladeshi railway company, that is the one with state-run, is trying to emulate Indonesian model in developing the railway management. So I think one of the way is to have more Indonesian investment in Bangladesh, and also to foster more people-to-people connection. And this is something that is really lacking in Dhaka-Jakarta relations. Even in elite level, I think that there's what is it, lack of interest compared to what we have with Islamabad and Delhi. There is much less happening with Dhaka. That's why I'm actually very privileged to be invited by Mr. Zilur Rahman. I've been in contact with him since 2020, since the early days of COVID. And that is why I mean, like, if I'm saying something here, there should be a lot of potentials, and this potential would not be coming if we don't have, for example, programs like student exchanges happening between Bangladesh and Indonesia. And I would like to invite all of the Bangladeshi students to study in our university in Indonesia, yeah, because we have scholarship program for master students. If you want to study law, if you want to study engineering, we have scholarship available for Bangladeshi students, and you can learn the language and also learn the engine what is it the knowledge from the experts here. And this is something that would what is it enable further cooperation and collaboration between our countries. Lastly, we have one of Bangladeshi student from ULab, from the University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh, who studied Bahasa Indonesia for several months, and now he's a Silk Road scholar in China. Now he's studying in Shanghai, I think. Yeah. So I think that well, it might not be the case where Indonesia student might study in Bangladesh. What we can do here in Indonesia is that I am encouraging all of the Indonesian students to do more work on Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is a huge potential and for Indonesia, and we could work together as both emerging Muslim democracy and emerging economies in the region. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking students to learn from Bangladesh about environmental issues, about gender issues, about labor issues, and I've been supervising a lot of theses about Bangladesh since then, and this is my part in developing the relations between Dhaka and Jakarta from Yogyakarta. The cross-cultural commencement, I think it will help in long term. It's not helping in short term because you will need a close elite connections, and this is something that I'm not witnessing in Jakarta. I used to meet with I have the opportunity to meet with Sufi Mizanur Rahman. Uh, all of you in Chittagong know him, right? Haj Sufi Mizanur Rahman is one of the what is it, conglomerates in Chittagong. I think he was, if not in Chittagong, in Silhet, I'm not sure. But Sufi Mizanur Rahman was one of the key figures in Indonesian-Bangladeshi relations, and I think that he's one of the what is it, leading figures as well. But I think that his role is quite limited in several sectors, but not in enhancing political connection. And I hope that in the future years, we can work something out together, inshallah. We're still young. We have a lot of things to do.
Okay, sir, we have a question from Ishfaqul Kabir Asif. Sir, I want to understand your point of view about the democracy and Sharia laws. Can those run simultaneously in countries like Bangladesh or countries like in Middle East?
Yeah. In the case of Indonesia, what we've been witnessing is that there is one province that is currently applying Sharia that is located in Aceh. But still, the implementation of Sharia is not without controversy because a lot of human rights activists are protesting about the implementation of the what is it, about the hudud, about how you can implement the sanctions toward those who are violating Sharia law. We have public not public execution, but public imposition of the sanction, that someone could be publicly humiliated and someone could be publicly announced that he's doing this kind of things, something that is not happening in what is it, modern system of law. So Indonesia, what is happening is that we are trying to see Sharia in a rather limited way, especially in the cases of marital or in a civil law. That is only the avenue where we are truly implementing the Sharia. But in the cases of criminal offenses, most of the provinces of Indonesia still follow, well, it's not really colonial law because we are trying to currently revise the criminal code that was constructed by Netherlands. We are currently trying to involve more aspect from the customary and also from the Islamic law, a new criminal code that is currently being created by the government. And hopefully in the future, we will have something that is resembling more Indonesian culture rather than the colonial ones. Yeah.
Okay, there is another question from Surya Akbar. Sir, I want to know how do countries with high levels of democracy utilize diplomacy to promote democratic values on a global scale?
This is something that is happening with Germany, for example. Germany has been active in advocating democracies everywhere. That's why they established a lot of institutes such as Friedrich Ebert, Friedrich Neumann. A lot of institutions in Germany were established by political parties, and these political parties wanted democracy to also develop in developing countries. So they are mostly helping these developing countries to monitor elections, to also conduct trainings to political parties, and also to ensure that human rights workers are having legal protection. So they usually establish their representative office in Dhaka. You have Friedrich Ebert, and also I think several other German think tanks as well. The ones I know is Friedrich Ebert. They've been constantly active in advocating for free and fair election in Bangladesh, as far as I know. And also they're helping with this event that I attended the Bay of Bengal conversation throughout this year. They have been supportive of this organization, and that is how you can utilize this soft power diplomacy as a way to actually export your own understanding of democracy to the developing countries. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any more question from our audiences? Okay, seeing none. So this was actually a fruitful conversation. As we have mentioned, that is high time. There has been dialogues, these kind of dialogues between Bangladesh and Indonesia. We are very hopeful to have more of these collaboration where we will talk about some crucial aspects, and we will encourage youth to become a leader. And the topic today is very interesting, that this discussion could go on for hours, but due to our time constraint, we will have to leave shortly. However, as we have discussed about this topic basically aligns with our upcoming events theme, which is Chittagong University Model United Nations Conference 2025, which is a renowned international youth conference, which is led by CUMUNA, and which is also renowned in Asia. And our event will be held in January 15 to 18. And for this year's conference, we are having 10 committees to engage in this kind of diplomatic dialogues for youth, where they will be engaged in some contemporary topics of the world affair. And also with this year's theme, fostering sustainable innovation through youth advocacy for inclusive global advancement. So we cordially invite you on this global platform to be a part of this youth advocacy and a future change maker. It was a pleasure having you all, and especially to our guest, for having us and for giving your valuable time to share your dynamic perspective and discussion. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is a huge honor and so pleasure to talk with you.
Okay, so that's all for our 10th episode of UNscripted. It was pleasure to have you all, and yes, we should enhance this kind of dialogue and collaboration between countries so that we can build a world and a better world. Thank you, everyone. This is Sumaiya Tasneen Sheemu signing off.